10 years after entering the palace, I finally put on the bright red palace dress and stood in front of Xiao Wuji. He frowned and said, "How dare you wear bright red and confront the queen? Hasn't Xinzheku learned its lesson in these years? You are so rude, I don't want to see you again." But he didn't know yet that this would be the last time we saw each other. After today, everything will be as he wishes. We will never meet.
1.
Seeing that I didn't move, Xiao Wuji suddenly became more angry. Today is the day when the foreign countries come to our dynasty to make peace with the marriage. Please don't make too much noise. Why don't you hurry back to Xinzheku and wait for my order to have you beaten with a stick? He picked up the teacup on the table and was about to throw it at me. The eunuch beside him hurriedly replied, "This is the wedding dress for the marriage, Your Majesty. She is the palace slave who volunteered to marry into a foreign country." Xiao Wuji's hand trembled, and the teacup fell to the ground and broke into pieces. A small piece of debris bounced up and scratched a bloody mark on his left cheek. He pushed the doctor who was approaching him, stood up stiffly, and walked towards me with a forced smile. "You are so bold that you have the guts to bribe the eunuchs to deceive me." His voice was trembling. "For the sake of our childhood friendship, you kneel down and admit your mistake, and I won't bother with you." He still remembers their childhood friendship. But I forgot that on that snowy night, when he carried me back to the bedroom, he applied medicine to my injured knee with tears in his eyes. "Sister, it hurts, right? Wuji will grow up quickly, become stronger, and will never make my sister kneel to anyone again. I will always protect my sister." I lifted my skirt, knelt down, and bowed deeply. The palace slave Sierre, am willing to marry you. I bid you farewell, Your Majesty."
"No."
"I won't allow it." Xiao Wuji interrupted me with a sharp voice, half knelt in front of me with red eyes, and held my hand tremblingly. "No, I'm not a palace slave. I promise to accompany me for the rest of my life, sister." Rao is already heartbroken. When I heard the word sister, tears still welled up in my eyes. Suddenly, I felt like I was back to when I was 6 years old. He was dark and thin, and he held me tightly and refused to let go. "I don't want to be a prince. I just want a sister. Don't abandon me."
2.
When I was 6 years old, I rescued Xiao Wuji from a slave farm. Later, I learned that he was the 7th prince who had been exiled to the common people. When someone from the palace came to pick him up, he held me tightly and refused to leave. I don't want to abandon my sister, and my sister doesn't want to abandon me either. But how could the daughter of a blacksmith be worthy of being the 7th prince's sister? The leading eunuch sneered and took out 20 taels of silver. "Since the 7th prince likes you, it is your blessing. Enter the palace and become a maid." 20 taels is more money than a blacksmith could earn in 10 years. With these 20 taels, Dad won't have to risk getting burned while forging iron anymore. Now I have the money to treat my mother's lung tuberculosis. The thatched house at home can also be renovated so it won't leak wind or snow anymore. This winter, my parents can live in peace. But my parents refused to take the money and just hugged me and cried. Xiao Wuji pulled me in front of my parents and swore for the first time, "I will definitely protect my sister. I will ask for permission to allow my sister to come back often." I played hook and hook with him. Hook and hook, no change. I have to come back for the spring festival. I miss my parents so much. He nodded solemnly. But just half a month after entering the palace, on the spring festival, I received the bad news from my parents. It was a large and fierce fire, and it burned all night in the winter. They burned down the slave farm, burned down my house, and also burned down the small pharmacy that had saved Xiao Wuji. When I heard the bad news, I ran out of the palace regardless of everything. However, he bumped into the imperial concubine on the way and was forced to his knees in the snow by the people around her. The noble concubine lifted my face with her foot and said, "You are running around with a face like this. Are you trying to seduce His Majesty? You are so brave. I will beat you up." I kept begging for mercy, saying that I just wanted to see my parents and asked them to let me out of the palace to see them. The whipping did not stop, and the concubine sneered. "If they are dead, they are dead. How can they survive if you leave?" Once you enter the palace, you are a slave of the royal family. You can only have your master in your heart. Do you understand the rules? For such nonsense, he should be thrown into the Xinzheku and released after he has learned his lesson. The cane tore my clothes, and blood mixed with cotton wool flew everywhere, like a sky full of flames that can never be extinguished. I was beaten to death and was about to be dragged to Xinzheku when Xiao Wuji arrived. He rushed in, pushed everyone away, carried me on his back without saying a word, and turned around and walked back to the bedroom. Behind him, the noble concubine sneered. No wonder there is such an unruly maid. It turns out the master is not a presentable person. Xiao Wuji didn't look back, nor did he stop. Just hugged me tighter. That night, he knelt on the ground and applied medicine to my injured knees and back. Sister, it hurts, right? Wuji will grow up quickly, become stronger, and will never make my sister kneel to anyone again. Sister, wait a minute, Wuji. I will give you the best in the world. What is the best? I don't know. All I know is that I no longer have parents. Sister, you still have me. I will be with you every Chinese New Year from now on. I will never abandon my sister. 3. In the spring of the 3rd year after entering the palace, the queen's own son died of illness. That night, Xiao Wuji held me in his arms, his eyes full of joy. Sister, our chance has come. Sister, I will give it everything and seize this opportunity. The late emperor is old, and his legitimate son is dead. Now that he is with the queen, it is Xiao Wuji's best chance to climb up. I squeezed his hand, overwhelmed with emotion, because this is also my best chance for revenge. In the past 3 years, I have found out that the fire was caused by the imperial concubine's sister, who ignored the law and the people and insisted on making iron flowers in the street. Only by getting close to the queen can you have a chance to overthrow the imperial concubine. Wu Ji, I can help you. I can give you everything. As long as he can sit in that seat and help me get revenge. In addition to the princes born to the imperial concubine, there are 4 other princes in the harem, all eyeing that position. Those princes had plans from their biological mothers, but Xiao Wuji only had me. Xiao Wuji leaned on my shoulder and rubbed it like he did when we were little. Sister, I'm grown up now. I have a way. Just wait for me. He began to become busy, moving between several palaces. Half a year later, the 2 princes, whose biological mothers were humble, were infected with the plague one after another. 2 months later, a prince broke his leg while riding a horse. Unfortunately, the 5 remaining princes have already moved into the east wing of the queen's bedroom. All he needed was the queen's nod, and he would be the queen's legitimate son. The queen's chamber was gloomy, and Xiao Wuji had no idea where to start, and his brows were furrowed every day. We have been planning for so long, and this is the last one left. Then let me do it. On a rainy night, I hid it from Xiao Wuji and brought a jade flute with me. Walk into the chamber of the queen's chief eunuch, Ma Gonggong. Eunuch Ma opened his palace robes and played with the cold jade flute. I knelt before him, smiled apologetically, and tried my best to coax him into a happy mood. He patted the bed and laughed. "TSK, your 7th prince's gift is great, much better than the 5th prince's banknotes. Tomorrow I will go and speak well of the 7th prince to the empress." He smiled smugly, his hands moving nonstop, and approached me with the jade flute in his hand. But at the last moment, Xiao Wuji broke in. With a dark face, he kicked Eunuch Ma to the ground, pulled out a dagger, and stabbed him in the chest. Then he found the 5th prince's letters and banknotes from under Eunuch Ma's bed. He took off his coat, hugged me, and walked out. Sister, don't be like this. Wu Ji wanted to climb up to keep his sister by his side. Wu Ji can give up everything, but not my sister. Under the moonlight, his eyes were red, and a tear hung on his chin. My heart skipped a beat, and I raised my head to kiss that tear. Warm and salty. Good. 4. Xiao Wuji killed someone in the palace. The emperor was furious and wanted to put him in the clan house. He mobilized all the connections he had accumulated since entering the palace and spent all his savings. He even used the relics left by his biological mother to bribe the guards. In exchange for a token to leave the palace, he gave it to me. There is a house in the suburbs of Beijing. There are 5 gold cakes hidden in the cellar. Sister, live well. I don't want to leave. How can I just watch him die? This is the boy I rescued and watched grow up. The guards he bribed advised me to leave quickly. The prince is guilty of the same crime as the common people. No one can save him unless he has done great deeds to make up for it. Merit. I suddenly remembered that the 5th prince had written about it in those letters. The queen was heartbroken over the death of her own son. The emperor specially allowed a reincarnation ritual to be performed. But it requires a woman with a completely own destiny who is willing to put in a bowl of heart's blood as an inducement. The reason why the 5th prince was able to curry favor with the queen was because he had found a woman with a completely own destiny. But if you spill a bowl of your heart's blood, you will almost certainly die. The man was not willing. I happen to have a completely own destiny. It just so happens that I am willing to do it. I lost my parents, and I don't want to be without him again. Only when he is around can the revenge of his parents be avenged. But it really hurts to have blood let out from my heart. It hurts much more than when my grandma pricked my nails with a needle. But thinking that this could save Xiao Wuji from the death penalty, I forced myself to endure it. It was not until the ritual was over and I saw Xiao Wuji being released with my own eyes that I felt at ease and closed my eyes completely. When I woke up from my coma, Xiao Wuji had become the queen's legitimate son. Xiao Wuji pardoned the 5th prince from death and used evidence of the 5th prince forming a clique for personal gain to make the 5th prince be abandoned by the emperor. Xiao Wuji's biological mother is dead, and he has no maternal relatives left behind, so he is easier to control. He is therefore more popular with the queen's faction than the 5th prince. Sister, we won. With tears in his eyes, he fed me ginseng soup with his own hands. Sister, please don't take risks for me anymore. My heart was broken when you fell. His tears fell into the ginseng soup, creating ripples. The days that followed gradually became easier. In the struggle between the empress and the concubines, Xiao Wuji and I added fuel to the fire. In the spring of the 6th year after entering the palace, the imperial concubine was deposed. Within a few months, the late emperor fell seriously ill and Xiao Wuji was made the crown prince. I am not the only one around Xiao Wuji. The queen sent a group of new people. The worst origin of the maidservants around the crown prince should be the concubine's daughter of a minor official. Instead of me, an orphan who came from a blacksmith shop. But he pulled me to kneel in front of the queen. She saved my life and has been my personal maid for many years. I cannot abandon her. The queen lost her temper. She angrily denounced Xiao Wuji for betraying her and her family's support and cultivation, but ignoring the overall situation. I knelt beside Xiao Wuji and felt like laughing when I saw the queen looking at me vaguely while she was scolding me. I understand that for many years, Xiao Wuji only had me by his side. It was me who rescued him from the slave farm, and it was also me who rescued him from the clan house. If I were to abandon you at this time, I would be accused of being unjust. Unjust is not an insult that a prince who is about to succeed to the throne can bear. But the queen won't understand. We have depended on each other for many years. How could I let him bear such an abusive name? Our friendship cannot be recognized by a false name. I knelt down and pleaded guilty, volunteering to be Xiao Wuji's maid. The queen was very satisfied with my general understanding and allowed me to stay and take care of Xiao Wuji personally. He also promised me personally that if I was sensible, he would allow me to warm his bed when Xiao Wuji set up his own residence in the future. Xiao Wuji's expression changed. After returning to his bedroom, he half knelt in front of me and rubbed my knees skillfully. Sister, I won't let you warm the bed. It's just that I haven't found my footing yet. Please don't blame me for what happened today. The status of a senior palace maid is not worthy of you. Even if I can't give you just one person in my harem, I will let you stand by my side with a legitimate reason.
5.
In the winter of the 7th year after entering the palace, the previous emperor passed away. Xiao Wuji ascended the throne and became the new emperor. The queen tried to manipulate him to be a puppet emperor, but she didn't know that he had already united with other powerful families to overthrow the queen's party. I stood beside him as a lady-in-waiting. Sister, the political situation is still unstable. Once I have stabilized everything, I will give you a better status. I've made it through all these years. Why would I care about an identity? But deep down, I am really sad. Because on the day of the new emperor's selection, I saw a familiar person. The younger sister of the imperial concubine. The one who caused his parents to be burned to death while making iron flowers in the street on a winter night. Why is she still alive? I couldn't help it and rushed to question Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji held his head helplessly. The royal concubine's mother's family is the Pei family of the southern region, one of the 4 great families. Even the late emperor could not eradicate them, so how can I deal with them as soon as I take office? Don't worry, I will slowly get rid of her and the Pei family behind her. Give me some time, okay? I felt resentful, but I also understood how difficult it was for him to ascend the throne. So I waited and waited. 2 months later, the news came that he had made Pei's daughter the queen. I was unwilling to give in, so I rushed over to question him again. He was having a meal and looked a little impatient when he saw me. Sister, a war has broken out in a foreign country. Only the Pei family can send soldiers to resist. I must stabilize them. Wait a minute. Once we conquer the foreign lands and the Pei family becomes useless and has no soldiers, I will take care of it. Do you understand? Xiao Wuji, I interrupted him. You have forgotten everything you promised me. Sister, I'm not. He grabbed me anxiously, but after I dodged him, he paused, slowly stood up, and took 2 deep breaths. He wore a beaded hat, and after stringing the beads, he frowned. You're questioning me? I did promise to give my sister a title, but I never said she would be the queen. Sister, I am the emperor. When you see me answering, you should bow your head and listen instead of standing and questioning me. He spoke slowly and clearly, word by word. So clear that it's a little jarring. I opened my mouth and said only one sentence. I have never thought about the position of queen. That's great. You are quite sensible. Go back. I have arranged for someone to prepare a side hall for you to live in. He interrupted me and waved his hands as if to chase away an untimely mosquito. I was led away by the eunuch, and when I stepped out of the room, I ran into the new queen, the daughter of the Pei family, standing outside the door. She squinted her eyes and glanced at me, chuckled, and walked in arrogantly. Your Majesty, I am late and have made you unhappy again because of the dirty things. The palace door closed slowly. Xiao Wuji let out a faint laugh. It's okay, he's just an unimportant person.
6.
The side hall that Xiao Wuji prepared for me was in the southeast corner of the imperial garden. I don't know when a large group of purple irises appeared there. That was my favorite flower before I entered the palace. At that time, Xiao Wuji, who had just been rescued by me, raised his little hand and pulled the hook with me. Sister, when Wuji grows up, plant a big field of irises for me. I was mesmerized by the sight, from the sunset to the deep night. When the bright moon was high in the sky, a yellow figure hurriedly walked over to the ibis bush. It is Xiao Wuji. Today, the iris bush had just been flooded, and the ground was very slippery. Xiao Wuji walked in a hurry and slipped and fell to the ground. I didn't help him up. I watched him scramble to his feet and stumble over to me. Sister, are you disappointed in me? I haven't forgotten the promise I made to my sister, but the foreign countries are at war, and the people also need Pei's army. Sister questioned Wu Ji like that today, and Wu Ji was heartbroken. Look, Wu Ji knew that my sister liked irises, so these were planted by Wu Ji himself. I know that my sister hates the daughter of the Pei family. When she is still the queen, my sister can live here. When I have dealt with everything, I will pick you up and let you be the only person by my side.
Don't worry, sis.
I just need to use them. In my heart, there is only my sister. He was wearing a muddy dragon robe, half kneeling in front of me as he used to do, carefully rubbing my knees, his eyes filled with tears of guilt. Sister, I will come to accompany you often. You just stay here and wait for me for a while, okay? He carefully raised his right hand in front of me and extended a little finger. My heart softened immediately, and I stretched out my little finger to hook it. Hook. Xiao Wuji, I believe you again. But I didn't expect that half a month later, the queen found me. She raised her head like a proud swan. Are you the slave girl who is trying to repay His Majesty's kindness by clinging to him? The people she brought forced me to kneel in front of her. I glared at her angrily, wishing I could burn her to death so that she could experience the same pain my parents had experienced. She sat in front of me, took off one of her shoes, and stuffed it into my mouth. How dare you look me in the face, you bitch? Look carefully, you are only fit to lick the soles of my shoes. I am a daughter of the Pei family. We, the daughters of the Pei family, are born to be favored by the emperor. How can you be worthy of competing with me? I heard that you once hooked up with an old eunuch. TSK, you are such a lonely slut. You must be lonely after being locked up here, right? Come here, drag her to the couch. Today, I will reward you eunuchs for satisfying her well. Countless hands were roaming around, and I struggled desperately, but I couldn't get away. Empress Pei, you bully me like this. Aren't you afraid that His Majesty will know? Empress Pei chuckled. Oh, you mean the humiliating past between you and His Majesty? Every time he sees you, he will remember the past. I am helping him. The eunuchs became more and more outrageous. They messed up my hair and scattered my hairpins. I grabbed them tightly and stuck them into the eyes of a eunuch. Blood splattered everywhere and wails were heard. The eunuchs were frightened and scattered. I stood up, stared at Empress Pei, who was watching the show, and clenched the silver hairpin and rushed over. I'm going to put this silver hairpin into her neck. The door was suddenly pushed open, and a hand was placed between the silver hairpin and Queen Pei's neck. The silver hairpin penetrated half an inch, and blood gushed out immediately. Sister, you. I raised my head and met Xiao Wuji's eyes. I was reflected in his eyes. My hair was messy, my eyes were bloodshot, and I was covered with only a few rags. He took a breath, took off his cloak, wrapped me up, and carried me to the bed. Queen Pei stood behind him and spoke timidly. Your Majesty, it's all my fault. I just wanted to ask the palace, maids to decorate this place and change her into a better set of clothes. I didn't expect that she hated me so much and even wanted to kill me. Xiao Wuji frowned, stood up, sighed, and looked at me. There is heartache, confusion, helplessness, and a hint of doubt in his eyes. Don't do it again, okay? Promise, I.
7.
After that time, Xiao Wuji came less and less often. I was angry with him and didn't want to go look for him. The Ministry of Internal Affairs is the best at flattering the powerful and bullying the weak, and as a result, they have reduced the supply for me. When the first heavy snow fell, I got frozen sick. There was no charcoal fire in the room, and the window screens were torn apart by the freezing wind, allowing air to leak in everywhere. Even food is gone. I put on all my clothes to keep myself as warm as possible, and then walked out of the temple. I want to get some charcoal and some food. I don't want to freeze to death here. I walked with difficulty to the northwest corner of the Imperial Garden, hoping to go there to find Xiao Wuji in his study. But when I turned around the corridor, I heard Xiao Wuji's laughter. Not far away, Queen Pei was leaning against Xiao Wuji and walking towards them slowly, wearing a beautiful fox fur coat and holding a stove in her hands. Your Majesty, my father and brother have won the battle. Are you happy? I lowered my head and looked at the bulging, colorful clothes, and my nose felt sore. I took 2 steps back and hid behind the rockery. I don't want to be seen like this by Queen Pei or my enemies. Suddenly, the voice of Queen Pei rang in my ears. Hey, which palace is that made from? Don't you know that only the Emperor and the Empress can come here? You. 2 guards came immediately, dragged me out, and threw me in front of Xiao Wuji and Queen Pei. Xiao Wuji met my gaze, and his eyes trembled. Sister, why are you? I was about to pour out all my grievances, but was stopped by his next words. Why did you come out without permission, and dressed like this? I froze where I was. His words were so cold, colder than the snow beneath my knees. Queen Pei chuckled triumphantly and came forward to help me up. Enough, enough. Are you jealous because you heard that His Majesty gave me a fox fur coat? You shouldn't be making such a fuss. Come, I'll take you downstairs to change your clothes. She pulled me to the side of the bridge, and after a few steps, she whispered in my ear, I spared your life last time, but you're trying to seduce His Majesty? You're courting death. The next second, she yanked me hard. I subconsciously struggled back and pushed her, and she fell backwards and fell into the lake covered with thick snow. Xiao Wuji ran over quickly, jumped down, and picked up Queen Pei without saying a word. Then he walked up to me step by step and looked at me with extremely strange eyes. How did you become like this? Why did you come out to cause trouble? I didn't. I was so cold that my lips and teeth were chattering and I couldn't speak. I came out just to find some food and some charcoal. I just don't want to freeze to death there. By the way, I want to see you. Xiao Wuji frowned and interrupted me. How can you be so selfish? The Pei family's army is still killing people. If you kill the queen now, how can I explain to the Pei family? Do you want me to pay with your life? Fortunately, the Yu Lake is frozen and the queen is fine. Otherwise, none of your 9 clans would be able to pay for your life. My 9 clans? I don't have any 9 clans anymore. My parents both died in the fire set by the Pei girl. Xiao Wuji, have you forgotten everything? A cold wind blew suddenly, mixing with snow particles and blowing on my face. But I don't feel any pain or cold anymore. The wind and snow are not as cold as words. Since you are unwilling to live a peaceful life, then go to the Xinzheku and reflect on your mistakes. He walked away without even glancing at me.
8.
During the spring festival of the 8th year after entering the palace, I was imprisoned in the Xinzheku. The housekeeper had been kind to me in the past, so she didn't make things too difficult for me and only gave me some easy tasks. She comforted me. You and His Majesty have been together for many years. His Majesty will not ignore you. Maybe in a month he will take you out. But month after month passed. The door of Xinzheku was never opened again. Gradually, the aunt in charge stopped encouraging me. Occasionally, new news would come in from the palace, which was nothing more than the Pei family army's repeated military exploits. It was said that Empress Pei became more and more favored and domineering. If Xiao Wuji praised any palace made more, he would be reprimanded by the Empress the next day. There was also a female official who climbed onto the dragon bed and was given a slap on the wrist by Empress Pei. The housekeeper comforted me. It's good that you came in. Otherwise, I don't know how you would be tortured. Think about it from another perspective. Maybe this is His Majesty protecting you. I chuckled and held up my hand in front of her, which was covered with frostbite and scars. Thank God for protecting me like this. The housekeeper fell silent. Her eyes reddened with distress, and she held my hand. You helped me before. If you need anything, I will do my best to help you. I lowered my head and thought for a while, then said seriously, please help me find a shovel. I heard that if a palace maid loses her limbs, she will be given a sum of money to leave the palace. I'll give you the money. I just want to leave the palace. The housekeeper was so frightened that she waved her hands repeatedly. It will kill people. I understood. I know. But now I don't want to stay in the palace even if I die. This is Xiao Wuji's palace. My heart is dead, and I don't want to have anything to do with him anymore. The housekeeper didn't help me. She said, let me wait for 2 years. If the queen gives birth to a child and declares amnesty, then maybe I can leave the palace. You were born and raised by your parents. If you die, your parents will be heartbroken. I thought about it and felt that she was right. My parents are dead, and I have to live well for them. But this wait lasted for 2 years. The opportunity finally came. Pei's army fought with the foreign states for many years, and the foreign states finally agreed to make peace. Historically, establishing diplomatic relations has always required marriage, but there was no princess in the harem. The foreign country was poor, so Xiao Wuji issued an edict to select a palace maid from the harem who would be willing to go to marry the foreign king. She would be made a county lord and rewarded with 100 gold coins. I begged the aunt in charge to write my name on it. I was still worried and wanted to get some money to smooth things over and make sure they chose me. But the housekeeper said no. It's too hard to go to foreign countries. Those palace ladies would rather not go there even if they don't have 100 gold coins. You are the only one who submitted your name. Oh, don't regret it. I won't regret it. No matter how hard it is, it can't be more painful than being trapped here and watching Xiao Wuji fighting with his enemies. But aren't you afraid that His Majesty might see it and disapprove of it? Xiao Wuji.
Does he remember me?
Even if he remembers, my leaving might be a relief for him. After I leave, no one will know about his shameful past. It's going well. The chief steward of the Ministry of Internal Affairs quickly delivered the red palace dress. Miss Jiang, your portrait has been sent to the foreign country. The foreign envoy is very satisfied. According to the procedure, you should go to pay a visit to His Majesty and confer the title of County Lord. Thank you.
9.
In the 10th year since I entered the palace, I wore a bright red palace dress and walked in front of Xiao Wuji. He sat on the high dragon chair and raised his head from behind the memorial. After not seeing him for 2 years, he had completely lost his childishness, and his eyes were full of dignity and authority. He is not much like the boy who used to call me sister in my memory. He frowned and spoke in an indifferent tone. How dare you wear bright red and confront the queen? Has Xinzheku not learned its lesson in the past few years? You are so rude. I don't want to see you again. He also knew that this was the last time we would see each other. After today, everything will be as he wishes. We will never meet. Seeing that I didn't move, Xiao Wuji became angrier. Today is the day when the foreign countries come to our dynasty to make peace with the marriage. Please don't make too much noise. Why don't you hurry back to Xinzheku and wait for my order to have you beaten with a stick? He picked up the teacup on the table and was about to throw it at me. The eunuch beside him hurriedly replied, "This is the wedding dress for the marriage, Your Majesty. She is the palace slave who volunteered to marry into a foreign country." Xiao Wuji's hand trembled, and the teacup fell to the ground and broke into pieces. A small piece of debris bounced up and scratched a bloody mark on his left cheek. He pushed the doctor who was approaching him, stood up stiffly, and walked towards me with a forced smile. "You are so bold that you have the guts to bribe the eunuchs to deceive me." His voice was trembling. "For the sake of our childhood friendship, you kneel down and admit your mistake, and I won't bother with you." I lifted my skirt, knelt down, and bowed deeply. "I, the palace slave Jiang Sierre, am willing to marry you. I bid you farewell, Your Majesty. Farewell to the 10 years that have passed since we met and got to know each other, and ended up hating each other and abandoning each other. Xiao Wuji, you don't want to see me again. Me too."
No.
"I won't allow it." Xiao Wuji interrupted me with a sharp voice, half knelt in front of me with red eyes, and held my hand tremblingly. "No, not a palace slave. You said you would accompany me for the rest of my life, sister?"
Sister.
Water vapor formed in front of my eyes. Suddenly, I felt like I was back to when I was 6 years old. The young boy held onto me tightly and refused to let go. "I don't want to be a prince. I just want a sister." But the boy in my memory was dark and thin. There is no way he can overlap with the man now wearing a dragon robe and looking dignified and majestic. I lowered my head, stopped looking at him, and pulled my hand back. "Your Majesty, Jiang Sierre is a poor orphan. How can she be worthy of being your sister? You have made a mistake." Xiao Wuji, however, exerted even more force. There was a sharp pain in my fingers, which made me frown and shiver, and I took a breath of cool air. The wound that had just scabbed over opened again. A few traces of blood mixed with pus seeped out from the gaps between Xiao Wuji's fingers as he held me. He shuddered all over and fell to the ground. He loosened his hands, looked at my hands full of scars, opened his mouth, and couldn't utter a word. The eunuch standing nearby saw that something was wrong and came forward to support him. "Your Majesty, how about we arrange for Miss Jiang to rest and prepare first?" Xiao Wuji slowly came to his senses and spoke in a harsh voice. "Okay, have a good rest." Someone, Send her to the side hall of the Hall of Supreme Harmony and call for the imperial physician. Your Majesty. The eunuch stood there in a daze, not daring to move. The Hall of Supreme Harmony is Xiao Wuji's bedroom. No one except the queen could live in the Hall of Supreme Harmony. The corners of Xiao Wuji's eyes were still red, but his eyes had returned to their previous indifference. Xiao Wuji lost his temper and said that this was what had to be done. But no one dared to take me there, saying that they were afraid they would have to explain to Empress Pei if she found out. Xiao Wuji closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then he picked me up by the waist and carried me to the side hall behind the Hall of Supreme Harmony, regardless of my struggles. The eunuch ran over and whispered to Xiao Wuji that according to the rules, I was going to marry a foreign princess and should be placed in the county lord's garden after being conferred the title of county lord, so that it would be easier to prepare for the marriage. The foreign envoys will arrive tonight. If they knew that I was living in your Majesty's bedroom with my own daughter, I would have a hard time explaining it. Xiao Wuji stopped dead in his tracks. Who said he lived in the Hall of Supreme Harmony with his own daughter? Xiao Wuji said indifferently, there are so many palace maids. Just find one with a similar figure and send it over. The eunuch knelt before Xiao Wuji and said, No, Your Majesty, the portrait has been sent to the foreign country. How can we not marry the concubine who has been chosen as the bride? What if war breaks out again? Palace ladies can marry, but concubines cannot. Xiao Wuji said this, then carried me on his shoulders and walked out of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Your Majesty, please think twice. No more war. Behind him knelt a group of palace maids and eunuchs. They all had family members who had suffered greatly from the war, and perhaps even fathers and brothers who had been on the battlefield for a long time and could not return home. They kept begging, looking at me with resentment in their eyes. I am very familiar with this look, like the look I gave Queen Pei. In their eyes, I was the enemy who wanted to destroy their family reunion. Enemies should die.
10.
Xiao Wuji didn't care at all, and strode into the Hall of Supreme Harmony with me on his shoulders and carefully placed me on the bed. Sister, I really didn't know it was you who was going to marry me. I just wanted peace as soon as possible, to get rid of the Pei family army as soon as possible, and to get you out. He sat beside the bed and wanted to hold my hand to explain to me, but he didn't know where to start as his hands were covered with acne scars. I didn't say anything, just looked at him quietly. He felt a little guilty when I looked at him. Sister, I have been very busy these past 2 years. I was very busy. I didn't know you had to suffer so much. I just looked at him quietly. He became more and more at a loss, unable to sit still, and half knelt in front of me with tears in his eyes again. Sister, you say something, you scold me, or you hit me, okay? Sister, please don't be silent. I'm so scared when you do this. He fell on my knees, sobbing quietly. Just like when I was a kid, every time I felt wronged, I would act cute with me. I slowly raised my hand and placed it on his chin as I did before. The palms of my hands no longer feel smooth and soft, but instead feel taut skin and slightly stinging stubble. He is no longer the Wuji of the past. I really despise you. The marriage has been decided. I would rather die in a foreign country than be your sister. 11. To make up for what I have lost in the past 2 years. Or to make up for that snowy night when I almost froze to death. It makes up for the 10 years we have depended on each other. It's still a relief to see my parents die in the fire. Or maybe it's to make up for the risk I took to save him from the slavery. Xiao Wuji, which one can you make up for? If a knife is stuck into the flesh, blood will ooze out even if you pull it out. Even if you use the best medicine, the scars will remain forever. On every rainy day, it itches, burns, and hurts. Your Majesty, General Pei has entered the palace. There was a knock on the palace door, and the eunuch's voices rang out, stopping Xiao Wuji's actions. He came to his senses, and the strength in his hands slowly drained away. I pulled my hand away and slapped him hard. I slapped him sideways and then kicked him, causing him to fall off the bed. His dragon robe spread out, and he fell to the ground in a wolf-like state. Xiao Wuji covered his face, laughed softly, stood up and put on his clothes. Sister, if you stay, I will beat you every day until you calm down. The palace door was locked, and I was trapped inside alone. Several palace guards were standing outside the door and window, talking loudly and without reservation. There have been wars in the Central Plains for many years, and peace is just around the corner. How come such a person suddenly appeared? Yes, the Pei family army is loyal to the country, but there is such a person in the harem who seduces your majesty. How can we be worthy of Queen Pei and the Pei family army? I heard that she was imprisoned in the Xinzheku because she made a mistake, and this time she volunteered to marry a foreign prince to get out. She must be scheming. They deliberately raised their voices, as if they were afraid that I couldn't hear them. I heard that her parents died just after she entered the palace. On the day of her death, she did not even leave the palace, but went to your majesty to complain. How shameless. How dare such a person live?
12. Daddy, Mommy.
I clenched my fists, trembling all over, stood up and walked to the door. Just as he was about to open his mouth to retort, another tender voice came from outside the palace gate. Why are you all gathered here gossiping? Aren't you afraid that His Majesty will punish you all just to please the beauty? The palace door opened and Queen Pei walked in. She waved her hand, drove away all the palace servants, closed the door, walked in, sat at the table, and poured herself a cup of tea. Just now, I was passing by the imperial garden and saw a reptile under the flower bed on the east side. When a reptile steps into the sunlight, it has only two options. Either seize the opportunity, quickly hide in its own swill bucket, and seek a way out of the palace to survive, or stay and wait to die. I am kind-hearted and willing to give you a chance. I can also help you leave the palace and give you a chance to survive. She looked at me leisurely, twirling her teacup and raising her eyebrows slightly. I suddenly thought, on the day when my parents died in the fire, was she also like today, sitting on the high seat leisurely, as if looking at an insignificant ant? I forced a smile, took a silver hairpin from her hair, and approached her little by little. It was His Majesty who wanted me to stay, so I should stay. It would be so happy to be by his side, enjoying the glory and wealth, wouldn't it? She didn't get angry, but smiled and met my gaze. Are you happy, Sierre, living next to the enemy who murdered your parents? She stood up and approached me. 10 years ago, fires broke out simultaneously in the east and west of the city, burning down a slave farm, a small pharmacy, and 2 civilian homes. The source of the fire was a firecracker, and that firecracker was arranged by the second daughter of the second branch of the Pei family, that is, this palace. You know, I raised my hand, grasped the silver hairpin, and tried to stab her neck, but she held my wrist tightly. Her expression remained unchanged, and she continued to smile. With such little strength and means, you still want revenge? Sierre, I used to admire you for being able to endure all this and get to this point, but now I'm really going to be laughed at by your stupidity. Have you ever thought about how the fire seemed to have eyes, and how the 4 of your families were burned to ashes even though they were not connected? That fire was to burn you clean, not you. It is the shame of the royal family that cannot be discovered. It is Xiao Wuji's shame. Her words gave me chills. I have to thank you for this. If I hadn't had that opportunity, I, the second daughter of the second house, wouldn't have been favored by the Pei family, carefully nurtured, sent to the palace, and ascended to a high position. I felt a chill all over my body and fell to the ground. It's not that I haven't thought about this aspect. It's just me who can't believe it. I couldn't believe that I had rescued this boy and watched him grow up with me. He is the culprit who killed my parents. But apart from himself, who else could know so clearly which 4 families should disappear? I raised my lips and said, "You came to me so that I can die knowingly?" Queen Pei loosened her hand, and with a faint smile, she adjusted her hair. I am pregnant, so I will not kill you to accumulate merit for the child. You'd better be more sensible. After the evening hour tonight, I will escort you out of the palace. She walked away triumphantly. Seeing that I was heartbroken, she was particularly happy. I know that she has fallen in love with Xiao Wuji. 13. The Yu hour is when envoys from foreign countries enter the palace for banquets. After the hour of Yu, the foreign countries would set off with their imperial convoys. Empress Pei brought a few burly grandmothers to dress me up, covered me with a veil, and sent me to the main hall. You'd better not meddle in other people's business, otherwise the Pei family behind me will not let you go. I heard Xiao Wuji's voice and Queen Pei's charming smile. The previous painting was wrong. This woman is also a beauty from the Central Plains. We specially arranged a marriage for her to show the friendship between our two countries. I was led to the main hall to pay homage 3 times, and then was sent out to sit on the wedding car. The bell struck 9 times, and the float set off. I lifted the lid and looked back from the side of the float. With just this one glance, she met Xiao Wuji's gaze. He stood there in a daze, and the next second, he rushed over like a madman.
Wrong.
Sister. Many people gathered around him, including palace maids, eunuchs, and members of the Pei family wearing armor. Queen Pei stood at the front, holding her belly, and knelt in front of him. Sister? Xiao Wuji shouted at the top of his lungs. I silently withdrew my gaze and closed the car curtain. That's enough. From this moment on, there will be an extra thorn between Xiao Wuji and the Pei family. This thorn can be pulled out. It will also leave a hole forever.
14.
The road is bumpy. If Miss Jiang wants to see the scenery, she can go out for a ride. The curtain of the float was suddenly opened again, and a beautiful face with an exotic look poked its head in. Would you like to try it? My horse is very tall and beautiful.
He held out his hand to me.
I looked over subconsciously and saw a clear tooth mark scar on the back of his hand. There was a corner missing from the front tooth of the tooth mark, which was exactly the same as my tooth. A trace of almost forgotten memory emerged. When I was 6 years old, I secretly went to the slave farm to play without telling my parents. Instead, I saw a dark-skinned boy and a blue-eyed boy being surrounded and beaten. The dark and thin boy was at a disadvantage and was soon knocked to the ground, covered in mud. It was obvious that the blue-eyed boy was not from the Central Plains. I don't know where I got the courage from, but I rushed forward and blocked his fist that was about to hit the dark and thin boy's forehead. The owner of the slave farm knew my father and didn't make things difficult for me. The dark and thin boy looked at me eagerly, grabbed the corner of my clothes and called me sister, which made my heart soften. I used all my New Year's money and cooked for my boss for free for 3 months to replace the skinny and dark boy. That is Xiao Wuji. Later I found out that it was the blue-eyed boy who made a bet with his boss that day. If I hadn't stopped him, the blue-eyed boy would have won and gained his freedom, escaped from his slavery, and worked as a thug for his boss. I felt a little guilty, so I added an extra chicken leg to the meal I gave him. He took the opportunity to grab my neck and tried to force me to leave the slave farm. I bit his jaws hard and pulled myself free. Later, before the slave farm was burned down, I heard from the boss that he found an opportunity to escape through the dog hole in the backyard.
I felt a little guilty at the time.
Because I revealed the dog hole to him on purpose. I even celebrated. Fortunately, those beautiful eyes were not burned by the fire. It turns out that he is really not from Central Plains. It's the foreign prince, Lan He. You remembered me, Jiang Sierre? He smiled and took his hand back. It's worth it for me to come here in person just to see your portrait. Thank you for saving my life with your dog hole. You have a saying in the Middle Kingdom. If you pledge your love to me, I will come to pick you up in person. 15. In the 2nd month of the marriage to the foreign country, news came from the Central Plains. Xiao Wuji killed all the members of Pei's family, and Empress Pei was banished to the cold palace. It has been 5 months since the marriage to the foreign country. Xiao Wuji led all the troops and personally led the army to the border of the foreign country. He sent a handwritten letter, not asking for the foreign countries to surrender, not asking for money, food, or land, but only asking the foreign countries to hand me over. Lan He hugged me and touched my slightly bulging 4-month-old belly. What should I do, Sierre? Then let's go and have a look and ask him to give our child a gift, okay? Lan He held me in his arms and walked up to the city wall. When Xiao Wuji saw me, he was so excited. Sister, I'm here to take you home. Lan He chuckled and said slowly, Xiao Wuji, your sister is pregnant. Are you here to give her a gift as her brother-in-law? Xiao Wuji was so angry that his eyes were black and he vomited blood and fainted on the spot. When he fell, no one came forward to help him. After all, behind him were the Pei family army. He killed Pei's army, and few of them sincerely submitted to him. He is sorry to me and to the world.
16.
Xiao Wuji vomited blood and fainted, and was sent back to the Kyoto Imperial Palace. 2 months later, news came that Queen Pei had given birth to a baby boy. The Pei family army supported Queen Pei and her young son to ascend the throne, but Xiao Wuji disappeared without a trace, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Lan He seized the opportunity and led the foreign troops to launch a massive attack. With great force, he captured the Central Plains. When we entered the imperial capital, I had just given birth. When the child was 100 days old, Lan He personally took me back to the Central Plains and moved me into the imperial city he had conquered. Empress Pei was imprisoned in her chamber, and Lan He was handed over to me for personal disposal. I sentenced her to be burned at the stake. Every day for 49 days, they smeared her body with gunpowder and threw her into a sack soaked in kerosene, where they burned her whole body with raging fire and then put out the fire. Unfortunately, she didn't last that long. On the 19th day, she was choked to death by smoke. After her death, Lan He ordered her chamber to be demolished and a new palace to be built for her. During the demolition, a secret room was accidentally discovered. It was smelly inside, and a person was chained to a bed, groggy and calling out, "Sister, sister, come back." "Your Majesty, who is this person?" the palace maid asked me. I looked at him and said calmly, "He is just a slave. Send him to the slave farm."